Hello, my name's Kate, this is Aidan, and I'm going to be doing a very simple zombie makeup today, but very effective. I'm going to be using the Le Maquillage Death palette. It's got some great colours in there, based on the old Joe Blasco Death colours. Some simple neutral white powder by Ben Nye in this case. Some Pros-aide, which is a sort of glue for the skin, and a little bit of, well, in this case, cornflakes crushed up. We can use Rice Krispies, and some blood. So the first thing I'm going to do, if you remember from the other tutorials, this is wax makeup. It goes on like no other makeup. It's not grease, it looks like grease, but it is actually wax. And it actually gets better as you warm it up. So I'm just going to put one of the Death colours as an overall base on Aidan. So just put in this colour here, sort of beigey grey, just taking all the red out of Aidan's skin. Now you can put Le Maquillage on with anything, with your fingers, with a brush, with a sponge. With a little bit of black, just feel where the bone stops with your finger. Aidan, just lift your head up slightly, just close your eyes, and just paint in very lightly where that socket is. You don't want to give them completely black eyes because there's no subtlety there. So we're just painting in just there where Aidan's socket is. The boys will find this probably a bit harder because they're not used to putting eyeliner on. Girls are quite used to this. So we're just, again, just going into the socket on the other eye. And the good thing with the Le Maquillage wax is it blends beautifully because it's soft. Then using our lovely purples and reds, just look up, Aidan, if you can. We're just adding different hues. Aidan's a very good model. He doesn't blink too much. And close again. Just blend it down, just soften that a wee bit. And with a zombie, everything should be dragging down. If you think down, you'll get a much more zombified feel to your makeup. I'm just putting a bit of the bright red in so it looks a bit vivid. Moving on to the lips, I'm just going to powder before I start Aidan's lips because the Le Maquillage being so moist will not go on to any kind of moist skin. And what we want to do is sort of make the lips a bit, you want to lose the definition of them. You want to make them into a bit more of a gash, if you think of a gash rather than lips. Make them darker in the middle. So I'm just putting the black on. And again, don't forget that thing about pulling them down. At the top here, we lose the sort of bit of a Cupid's bow. And exactly the same colours as the eyes. In fact, I'm just going to take any redness away from where the lips were. Going a bit heavier on the base. And then we'll go in again with our purples. Again with the lips, this makeup gets better as it warms up. But with the lips, if you're going to a party, just powder well. And finally, if we just go for some lovely veins. Just mixing up a sort of vein colour here. Now you can paint those wherever. Just soften them in. It's just to give that sort of otherworldly feel. Using Pros-aide, or any glue that's safe to use on the skin, you can also add in a nice saw, which will give you that zombie half dead. So I'm just tapping a little bit on Aiden's skin. Just wait for it to dry. Meanwhile, I've crushed up some of these cornflakes, but Rice Krispies, probably what most people would use. Just crush them up small. Aiden, if you could lift your head back a wee bit, just so I can sort of drop them on. That's great. They will stick to the Pros-aide. Let me just make sure none of these go down. And once they're coloured up with a bit of blood, they'll give you a nice... Okay, you can come back down again, Aiden. They should hold while they're cooking. I'll just go round, and if Aiden closes his eyes, this is especially important with people wearing contact lenses. This powder is incredibly fine. It's the Ben Nye one. It's very, very reasonable. We'll just set this, particularly if you're going to a party. Don't forget round the eyes as well. Give it good. And Aiden, just come into your lips. You can see it takes the shine off. And finally, I'm going to add, this is David Stoneman's Dried Blood Dark. Hopefully these Krispies have taken now. So just pile the blood on. You can also use raisins. There's loads of things in the kitchen that are used in makeup frequently, because obviously they're safe to use on the skin. Gelatin. Some of our prosthetics are made out of gelatin, which is jelly. You've got a little bit crisping up there, which is actually quite nice to have. And to emphasise that little, we'll just do a little bit of, like a bit of the skin is sort of erupted and rotted. And you can do as many of these as you want. And they look fairly disgusting, very quick to do, very, and they're durable. That should last, depending on how heavy your partying is, that should last all night. And now, again, if Aiden was going to a party, I'd darken his hair with some wet look gel and scrape it all back so you get a lovely dark V there. But there we are, one zombie. So we use Le Maquillage Death Palette. I did use some of the colours from the Grande palette, but you can buy those individually or you can get them in a similar palette to this. I used Pros-aide for the glue, which is like it's almost like a PVA glue for the skin. And I used Ben Nye really lovely fine HD setting powder. So that's there, and brushes, cotton buds, and finally some cornflakes or Krispies. To clean the Pros-aide and the Crispies off, I'd recommend Telesis Super Solve Plus. It's really gentle and it just oils the glue off rather than taking it off with harsh solvents. So yeah, that's highly recommended.